Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to look at comfort zones. And, are they actually helpful or are they really holding us back?
Oh, that's a good question.
We're going to try to answer that question today. Our source today is going to be a parable from the Historia's Kikambian YouTube channel. And it's a story that could, maybe make you rethink how you think about comfort and change.
Yeah, I love that idea of using stories
Mm.
to, to explore these kind of complex ideas. They're not just information. It's about making us feel something.
Yeah.
And, that feeling is what helps us connect with that, the deeper meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. So this parable, it's set in a remote village,
Okay.
and there's this family. They're having a hard time, just surviving, and everything depends on their one cow.
Because one.
Just one cow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's their only source of milk, trade everything. So, it paints this picture of just how fragile things can be when we're clinging to just one source of security.
Hmm. Yeah, that image of the cow, I mean, it's so powerful, right? Like it represents that thing we think we absolutely need and that we're so afraid to lose.
Right.
And it could be a job, right? A relationship, a way of thinking, it could be almost anything. But it's that thing that feels essential, but it might actually be limiting us.
Right. Yeah, it's like that thing we're terrified to let go of, even if we know deep down, it might be holding us back.
Yeah.
So there's this wise master and his disciple, and they're traveling through this village, and they come across this family that we've been talking about. And the master does something that just seems totally shocking. Like it just comes out of left field. He tells his disciple to push the family's cow off a cliff.
Wow.
What? I know, right?
Yeah, that's intense.
It's such a jarring moment in the story,
Yeah.
and it makes you think about our own assumptions about comfort and security.
Uh,
Is it always about just holding on? Or could there be times when, letting go, even if it's really painful, could actually lead to something better?
right.
I can't imagine being in the disciple's shoes at that moment.
Yeah.
He's obviously, torn. He wants to obey his master, but he also, feels compassion for this family.
Right.
But ultimately, he pushes the cow off the cliff.
Wow.
And it's this act that haunts him for years. He just can't shake it.
It's like he can't get over it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can feel that inner conflict, right?
Right.
And he's grappling with this idea that, sometimes what seems like a horrible loss can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Right.
It's like a psychological earthquake.
Mm.
It's shaking up his entire worldview.
Yeah. So years pass, and the disciple, he's still carrying this guilt. He can't let go of this thing that he did. So he decides to go back to the village to see what happened to the family, maybe apologize, maybe, how they're doing. When he gets there, he's totally stunned by what he finds. Their little shack is gone. And there's this beautiful new house. Something major has changed.
So right away, something's different.
Totally different.
Yeah, it's like a visual representation of transformation.
Right?
The old structure, the old way of life, it's gone.
Gone.
And it's been replaced by something new and vibrant.
Exactly.
It immediately raises the question of what happened? What happened in those years that he was gone?
Yeah. So he finds the family, and they're not just surviving, they're thriving.
Really?
The kids are healthy, the parents are full of joy, and they tell him that losing the cow, while it was devastating at first, it forced them to find new ways to survive.
Oh, wow.
They had to adapt, innovate, and they had to tap into skills and talents they didn't even know they had.
Like they were forced to. That's amazing. And that's what makes the parable really interesting,
Yeah.
It's not just about losing something. It's about how that loss forces us to change, to evolve, to discover new possibilities. It's almost like that Yerkes-Dodson law in psychology. You know how a little bit of stress can actually push us to perform better,
Yeah.
to reach our full potential?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that.
So in a way, you're right. Losing the cow created that stress.
That they needed, yeah.
That they needed. They had to move beyond their comfort zone, beyond just relying on that one thing.
Right.
And that's what ultimately led to their success.
Exactly. And this is where it starts to get really relevant for all of us listening.
Yeah.
What's our cow?
Mm.
What are we holding on to so tightly that we're not even considering other possibilities, other paths that might lead to greater fulfillment?
Yeah. I mean, it could be a job that isn't fulfilling anymore, a relationship that's become stagnant, or even a way of thinking that's limiting our perspective.
Right.
And that's the first step, isn't it? Identifying those cows in our own lives.
Absolutely. It's about taking a step back and asking ourselves,
Yeah.
what are we afraid to let go of, even if it might be for our own good?
Mm.
What are the things that are keeping us stuck in a comfort zone that's no longer serving us?
Yeah.
It can be a real challenge,
Mhm.
even just recognizing those cows because they can feel so familiar.
Like they feel so safe. We've built our whole lives around them, and just the thought of letting go can be terrifying.
It's like we're blind to the bars of our own cage.
Right.
Like we don't even realize we're limiting ourselves.
Yeah.
But, this parable, it shows us what can happen when we're forced to break free from those limitations.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but it can be like so incredibly liberating.
It's like that quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And that's what the family in the story discovered. They
Yeah.
had to face their fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing their only source of security. And by doing that, they found this whole new world of possibilities.
It's true. But it's also important to note that they didn't just, accept their fate.
Right.
They went out and they looked for solutions.
Yeah.
They looked for new ways to provide for themselves. It wasn't just about letting go of the cow. It was about embracing that challenge and
Yeah.
using their own resourcefulness to create something better. Exactly. It's about that shift in mindset, right? Like instead of seeing change as this scary threat, you see it as an opportunity.
Right.
And that's a skill that anyone can develop. It's not something we're born with. It's something we can cultivate, through practice and by consciously choosing to see challenges as like stepping stones instead of roadblocks.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, like, how can we start to apply this to our own lives? How can we actually identify those cows and then have the courage to actually let them go?
Well, the first thing is becoming aware of our own comfort zones,
Yeah.
right? What are those things that we're clinging to, even if they're not really serving us anymore? It could be a job that's draining our energy, a relationship that's become toxic, or even a belief system that's limiting our potential.
It's like we're taking inventory of our lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
looking at each area and asking, like, is this really bringing me joy, fulfillment, growth? Or am I just like holding on to it because I'm scared or because it's just what I'm used to?
Exactly. It's about being honest with ourselves, even if those answers are kind of uncomfortable. And then once we've identified, what those cows are, we can start to think about ways to let them go.
Yeah, but that's where things can get really tough, right? Because letting go of something that feels so important and so essential can be scary. It can bring up all sorts of anxieties and doubts.
Absolutely. But you have to remember, growth often happens outside of our comfort zone.
Right.
It's in those moments when we're uncomfortable, when we're facing the unknown, that we really discover our resilience and our ability to change.
So it's not just about letting go, it's also about having a plan,
Yeah.
a strategy for how we're going to navigate that transition.
Yeah.
And that might be different for everybody, right?
Right. Like for some people, it might be about gradually stepping outside their comfort zone,
Yeah.
taking small risks and building confidence as they go. For others, it might be a more like radical shift,
Yeah.
like a total leap of faith.
The important thing is to figure out what works for each of us, what feels challenging but also achievable. And to remember that we don't have to do it all alone.
That's a great point. Having a support system, whether it's friends, family, or even a mentor, can make all the difference. It gives us that sense of safety and accountability.
Like we're not in it alone.
Yeah, like we're not in it alone, exactly.
So it's not about just being reckless. It's about calculated risk-taking.
Yeah.
Pushing ourselves enough to grow, but not so much that we get overwhelmed. And remember, even if we mess up or fall down, those experiences are valuable too.
Absolutely. Like failure is just another chance to learn and adjust our course. It's part of the process. And often it's in those moments when we think we failed that we discover our greatest strengths.
That's true. The parable doesn't tell us exactly what new skills the family learned after they lost the cow, but it does say that they diversified, that they found new ways to make money and to create a better life.
And that's such a key point. It really highlights the importance of being adaptable,
Right.
of being willing to explore different options
Yeah.
and not limiting ourselves to just one path.
Yeah.
It's like they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. So maybe, one family member discovered they were really good at carpentry, another one became a skilled trader, and they like pooled their resources to create a more sustainable and, fulfilling lifestyle.
Yeah, like they work together.
It's about embracing that entrepreneurial spirit, that willingness to try new things and learn from our experiences.
That's a good way to put it.
And, this isn't just about money. It's about finding fulfillment in whatever we choose to do.
Right.
Maybe the family discovered a passion for farming, like creating something with their own hands, connecting with their community in a new way.
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. It's about aligning our actions with our values and finding that sense of purpose that drives us forward even when things get tough. And that sense of purpose, that inner motivation, that's what helps us get through those tough times.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, it keeps us
it
going.
helps us get back up when we fall and keeps us moving towards a life that's really aligned with who we are and what we want to achieve.
That's so true. So let's bring this back to you, the listener, for a second. Think about your own life for a minute.
Yeah.
What are those cows that you might be holding on to? Those things that are keeping you in a comfort zone that isn't really working for you anymore?
Maybe it's time to ask yourself some hard questions. Are you actually happy at your job? Is your relationship bringing you joy and fulfillment? Are your beliefs and values aligned with how you're actually living your life?
This isn't about beating ourselves up or feeling guilty. It's about being honest with ourselves and recognizing that we always have the power to change, to evolve, to create a life that's more aligned with our true potential.
And remember, you don't need to have all the answers right now. It's a journey, it's a process of self-discovery. But just by taking those first steps, by acknowledging those cows and starting to think about new possibilities, you're already on the path to creating a life that's more fulfilling and meaningful.
It's like we have this inner GPS, but we've programmed it to avoid all the detours, all the unexpected turns in the road. But what if those detours are actually what lead to the most incredible destinations?
Yeah, like we think we're saving time by sticking to the route we know, but what if we're missing out on all this amazing stuff along the way? Those scenic views, those hidden gems experiences that could totally change our whole perspective.
And that's where the real magic is. When we step outside our comfort zone, it's not even just about reaching a goal, it's about the growth, the self-discovery, all those unexpected things that happen on the way.
Right.
Think about that family in the story. We don't know exactly what their new life was like, but we know they were happier, they were doing better, and they were more connected as a family. They found this whole new path that was just for them.
Exactly. And that's what's so inspiring about this parable.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we get to write our own stories. We can create lives that are full of meaning and purpose even when we face hard stuff.
So it's about taking control, believing that we're not just along for the ride. We can actually shape our own destinies, even if it means leaving behind what feels safe and familiar.
Right.
So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you want something more, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what's your cow? What's that thing, that comfort zone, that belief, that habit that's holding you back from your true potential?
Yeah. And what would your life look like without it?
Yeah.
What new possibilities might open up? What hidden talents and strengths could you discover?
Now, this isn't about just throwing everything out the window and making crazy decisions. It's about being thoughtful, making choices that are in line with what we care about and what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
It's about taking risks.
Yeah, but calculated risks, knowing that even if we don't get exactly what we expected, the journey itself is going to change us.
Just imagine that feeling of breaking free, like no more limits. The excitement of exploring something totally new. The pride of knowing that you were brave enough to leave your comfort zone and embrace the unknown.
That's powerful.
That's what makes us human, Our ability to grow, to bounce back, to become something new. We're not meant to just stay the same. We're meant to evolve, to learn, to see more of the world.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Surround yourself with people who support you, who want you to be your best, who celebrate your wins and help you up when you fall.
That's so important. So as we finish up this deep dive into the power of leaving our comfort zone, think about what we talked about. What's your cow? What's that first step you can take towards a life that's more true to you? You might be amazed by what you find on the other side.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe your story will inspire other people to break free and embrace change.
That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing past the familiar. You never know what amazing adventures are waiting for you out there.